Switch. So tonight we are talking about legends versus champions. And I have a legend in the making with me tonight. I get the opportunity to talk to your very own Samantha Mahurin. So Samantha, how are you doing?
I'm good.
You're good. Do you feel like a champion or a legend?
I don't know. I guess both right now.
Well, so tonight I'm just going to ask you a couple of quick questions so that we can fill everybody in on, how God has moved in your life and how He's made you victorious. And so let's dive in.
Sounds good.
So my first question is, I want you to go ahead and take 1 minute and tell us a story of a time when you were able to overcome something or a victory that you've experienced.
Well, whenever I was younger, I grew up in a house where I had my dad and my stepmom, and they both were not very supportive of anything that I wanted to do, so I was constantly just being put down by their words all the time, just saying, you're not talented enough to sing, you can't ever dance, you're not graceful enough, you're too tall to be a cheerleader, you just won't fit in any clubs or anything that I wanted to do. So it was just really degrading to have your own parents tell you all that stuff. But whenever I lived with my mom and I quit living with them, she's the complete opposite. She would always just kind of tell me, don't listen to, what everybody else is saying. Just pay attention to what God is saying to you and what the people in your life that are bringing you up. Just pay attention to what they're saying rather than the people that are bringing you down or whatever. Just don't listen to them because they don't matter.
So what is, explain to me God's role in your victory.
I kind of started my walk with God pretty early on in my life. I'd say maybe 10 or 11 or so, which is when I moved in with my mom, and she was a pretty strong Christian throughout her life too, and my grandma was a big part in my life as well. So I was always kind of taught from a young age to really pray about everything. And that helps out a lot because, whenever I'd go to school and those people would say things or my dad would come back or something with something negative to say, I could always be like, God, that really hurt. You got to tell me something positive about myself, because nobody wants to feel sad or like they're not good enough or anything. So God's always going to step in and He's always going to tell you, no, don't think like that. You're my child, you're a princess or you're a prince, you're the daughter of the true king and everything.
You're a masterpiece.
Yeah, you're a masterpiece. You're a legend,
That takes a lot of faith too.
Oh, yeah.
Especially when people are coming at you like that,
mm-hmm.
and you just have to believe that God is going to stand for you, even when you don't feel like standing yourself.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. That's a huge thing. In this room full of Switch students, what's one thing that you've learned from your experience? What would you tell them would be that one thing? Everybody
always tells me whenever we're in the Switch small groups or at my life group or something like that, they always want me to pray. Oh, Sammy, you're such a good prayer. I don't want to pray, you pray. You always do so good. And I'm like, what do you mean I do good? I'm praying. I'm just talking to Jesus. It's not that big of a deal. And they always freak out no, you're such a good prayer. And I'm like, I don't really think that's a thing. I think praying is something that nobody's better at it than somebody else. It's just a special relationship with God that just kind of shows that you can talk to Him in front of people or even by yourself. One of my big things every single day, every time that I get in my car, I pray. Even if it's just going through the drive-thru at Sonic or something, I pray hey God, thanks for giving me this day. Thanks for giving me the money to buy some mozzarella sticks. Just something simple like that. It doesn't have to be a big thing oh God, I need help. You can just tell Him, thanks for giving me a good day. And it really, that's helped my faith a lot because it's just good to have somebody to talk to. So don't be afraid to pray. Yeah, for sure.
It's not as scary as you think it is.
It's not.
Prayer is
really
great.
Chill.
And it is a little intimidating, I think, sometimes starting out praying, because I think some people just feel first of all, I don't know if God's listening. Mm-hmm. This is the creator of the universe. What does He want to talk to me for? What does He want me to talk to Him for? And so I get it. It's a little scary, but it's worth every second of that fear to get to that place where you're comfortable talking to God. Sure. Because once you're comfortable, that opens up a whole new world where God talks to you. But I think that's great advice. Don't be afraid to pray.
Yeah.
One last question. How has God's help in facing a challenging situation changed your perspective moving forward?
Basically, everybody that knows me kind of knows that I'm a pretty optimistic and positive person. You know, I don't like negative energy. It stresses me out, and it's not a good day when that happens. But I think one of the biggest things that God has done in my life is really shown me the power of positivity and bringing other people up rather than putting them down, because I've personally experienced that. So I don't want anybody else to have to feel like that. So I always just try to step in and make them feel wanted and loved, and make sure that they know that God thinks that of them and that they're important and they have a purpose and all that. So God just has really shown me that really the impact that one person can have, even if it's, smiling at somebody in the hallway that you don't know. Like, they can be having a really rough morning, and just that one thing that you do can really change their life. So you don't have to do a big thing to make a difference. You don't have to raise a bunch of money or go out in front of you.
It doesn't have to be this world-shaking thing.
Yeah, it can be a really small thing that kind of starts a chain of other things. So it kind of starts, if you just do that one thing, it'll start a big movement.
So don't be afraid to start small.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of how God has changed your perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how you become a legend. You start small.